ERP space is very exciting. Things are always changing. So, which are the top 10 ERP vendors in 2025? That's what we are going to discuss in this video. So, let's dive in. In general, one, my name is Sam Gupta. I'm principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent buy-side technology advisory firm. We help our clients with the enterprise transformation strategy, enterprise technology selection, as well as change management. On that note, let's go back to today's topic, which is going to be the top 10 ERP vendors in 2025. Just to be clear, this is the list of the companies and not of the systems. So this list is going to help you assess their overarching financial stability, the macro perspective of the vendor, overall their roadmap, how strong they are in their capabilities. They may have several products in their portfolio. Those products might not be relevant for you, or just because the ERP vendor is ahead in their positioning does not mean that they are going to have leading position with the product as well. But overarchingly, in general, considering this as a factor with your selection process in assessing where each of the vendors are, this should not be the sole factor in deciding which ERP system you should go with. The criteria that we use to compile this list is their overarching market share, their valuation roadmap, product and acquisition strategy, depth of their cloud native capabilities, the quality of their technology, quality of their development, community, roadmap, product mix, overarching company ownership, what kind of changes can we expect in the future years. So these are some of the factors that we are analyzing from the macro perspective, and we publish this list every year. So we had published this for 2024 as well. You might want to check that. And we are updating any sort of changes with each of the vendors that have happened in 2024. So we will be providing a brief on that as well as part of this video. So now let's look at the list. Number 10 on our list is Acumatica. And Acumatica, if you are not familiar with this vendor, they are primarily in the smaller space. And generally, when we look at our segments, we segment this based on 4 different categories. Sometimes there is going to be sub-segmentation of that as well. But generally, we are dividing this based on the startup, the small, the mid-size, as well as enterprise. Generally, the startup segment is the one where it's going to be roughly $10 million and below. So those are different businesses. They typically share similar characteristics in the companies are going to be in that market segment in general. And then you have the small segment, and that is going to be anywhere from your 10 million to roughly $100 million in revenue. These companies are going to have very similar needs overall from their enterprise technology perspective. And then you have the mid-market, which is the roughly from $100 million to roughly $1 billion. So that is going to have 2 different segments. One is going to be your lower mid-market and the upper mid-market. The lower mid-market generally is anywhere from your 100 million to 250 million. And then you have from 250 to $1 billion. So that's how the mid-market is segmented. And then you also have the enterprise segment, which is $1 billion and up. In that as well, you have further segmentation, lower enterprise, upper enterprise. In the lower enterprise, anywhere from 1 billion to roughly 5 billion. And then you have the upper enterprise, which is going to be 5 billion and above. For the most part, if you look at the overarching segmentation of different enterprise software vendors, how they position their products, as well as how they segment their sales teams as well, this is probably going to be consistent with them as well. So we are looking at the overarching trend in terms of how vendors are positioning their product and coming up with the theme where we can provide you some guidelines, some guardrails that is going to help you in assessing which products belong where. So Acumatica is going to be relevant not for the startup segment. It might be slightly bigger for the startup segment category, even though you might see Acumatica being adopted there as well. Sometimes companies are going to have a lot more implementation budget. They are going to have a lot more maturity from the ERP perspective. It might be okay to implement in the startup segment as well. But for the most part, if you look at Acumatica's, the majority of the customers, they are going to have in that small segment. They are not going to have as much presence in the mid-market. Their product strategy is aligned with that small segment at this point of time. Every single vendor that we have on the list is trying to go up market. But for the most part, if you look at where they are proven, where they have the large majority of their logos, for Acumatica, that's going to be the small segment. Now, overall, their product strategy is from the global perspective. If you look at their presence is going to be limited in fewer countries. And one of the themes that you are going to find with the vendors that are going to have the mid-market product, that they will have a lot more countries supported natively as part of the product. With Acumatica, you might be able to find these localizations from the partners, but then you are dealing with multiple vendors, you are dealing with multiple add-on support contracts, etc. So that increases some risk from the product perspective, but that is something to keep in mind, that their positioning right now is more in the small segment. Acumatica just have one product at this point of time. They don't have multiple products. Their ecosystem is very heavy, a lot of different providers. And that is also a theme that you're going to find in the smaller segment. These ecosystems are primarily heavier because Acumatica product, even though they have a lot of operational capabilities as well through their multiple additions, they can provide a lot more capabilities, but that need to be further augmented with several options that you are going to have in their market segment. So Acumatica is probably going to be the best fit for the business models that are going to be slightly more hybrid. And when you are going to be at the intersection of, let's say, you are doing construction plus manufacturing plus distribution plus e-commerce plus field service, that's where Acumatica is a really good product for those smaller segments, because these additions are supported by the same database, same product suite. The databases are going to be different from the global footprint perspective. So that's why Acumatica is not as global as some of the other products that we have on this list, but they are going to be far more consolidated from the business model perspective. Let's say if you are a US-based company and you are looking for Acumatica, that could be a great fit for you. If you look at their recent updates, as such, 2024 was a very slow year. So we have not seen as many acquisitions in general. And generally, Acumatica is slightly more product-centric company. They don't acquire as many capabilities unless they are simply acquiring their own ISVs to augment those capabilities natively and provide that as part of the product as well. Those acquisitions that we have seen in the past with Acumatica, but right now in 2024, the only major updates that they have done is releasing their professional services version. So now they are going to be a lot more present in the services industry as well. For the most part, before this, their logos were primarily centered in the product-centric companies, manufacturing. Construction would be all over the place. Sometimes that could be considered as a service company, but they also have a lot more inventory. So construction is a different beast in general. The field service also is tricky. Sometimes that could be considered as more of the services company, but they were not necessarily into that pure play services industry where their competitors, for example, let's say if you look at Sage Intacct or NetSuite, they are probably going to be their closer competitors. They were present in these industries. So now we are going to see a lot more logos with Acumatica in those industries as well. For the most part, right now, they are early in the game with their professional services addition. So they might not have as many logos. They might not be as proven. The addition that they are going to have may not be as mature. So that is something to keep in mind. So that's number 10 vendor on our list. Number 9 on our list is Deltek. And Deltek falls in that prescriptive category where they are going to provide a lot more as part of the suite from the integration perspective that's really friendly for that mid-market segment. In general, the large majority of the prescriptive vendors that we are going to have, for example, Infor, Epicor, ECI, all of these vendors are very guarded. They are not going to have as developed ecosystem. In general, what they are trying to do is they are trying to offer a lot more capabilities out of the box, natively integrated as part of the suite. There are always going to be pros and cons of each of the approaches. Here, the approach is going to be slightly friendlier. When you are looking for the complete suite, you can replace every single tools that you might be using. But let's say if you want to utilize any sort of external tools, for example, let's say for your WMS, e-commerce, etc., that's where you are going to run into challenges with these prescriptive platforms. So that's about the prescriptive platforms. Now, overall, from the Deltek perspective, the last valuation that they had received was roughly $2.6 billion valuation. Right now, they are still the smaller private equity that they are still holding Deltek at this point of time. The private equity is not as big as Thoma Bravo or other bigger enterprise software private equity. So we are not seeing as much momentum in the Deltek's portfolio. Overall, if you look at the private equity portfolio, they have a lot more presence in the medtech space, and sometimes there are going to be a lot of government contracting centric play in the medical device space as well. So there is a possibility that they are keeping that because they are targeting that market share. For the most part, if you look at Deltek's core positioning, they do really well in the construction, government, contracting space, AE space, which is going to be your architecture and engineering. That's their core market. They have been trying to get into the manufacturing market as well, but that manufacturing exposure is limited. They have done some acquisitions in the past aligned with their manufacturing presence, but for the most part, their suite capabilities, the ERP capabilities, are going to be substantially limited. They don't have as strong front-facing capabilities. For example, let's say if you look at their CRM module, generally customers are going to have another CRM tool that they generally use with Deltek. That may be a possibility with other vendors as well. But in this case, you are not going to have as much capabilities baked as part of their ERP product. The last notable acquisition that we have from the Deltek perspective is they had acquired a company called Replicon, which is more of the sort of the WFM play, and sometimes these workflows or the HCM workflows, they are now part of the MES category. And this is a very similar play. We have seen this with your, I think, IFS and QAD did very similar acquisitions. IFS did one acquisition with Poca and QAD did with Red Zone. So overall, the architecture is sort of shifting in terms of where these HCM workflows are going to reside. Sometimes these tools have flavors of training, etc. So it's a very interesting movement at this point of time. But overall, Deltek's core positioning is not necessarily in manufacturing. They don't have as many logos as the other vendors that we have in the market. And the final update from the Deltek perspective is not as much momentum in their portfolio at this point of time. And they have acquired one more company called ProPricer, which is the CPQ for government. In general, in the government space, the estimation process that you have, the quoting process that you have, that is very complex. So they have acquired that. This is a very similar acquisition that we have seen with the other vendors as well, such as your Epicor. So that's Deltek, and it's on number 9. Number 8 on our list is Sage. And if you look at the overarching strategy of Sage, their distribution model is through CPA firms. They are far deeper in their accounting capabilities. Sometimes people sort of argue that they are not a true ERP platform. There are going to be some products in their portfolio that have full suite ERP capabilities, but those are also going to be very legacy install base. Traditionally speaking, Sage has a lot of different products, Sage 50, 100, 200, 300, 500, all of those were aligned based on the seat capacity, which is going to be the number of employees that any companies are going to have. But then they also had their own industry flavors in terms of which product they wanted to position in which category. So they were sort of all over the place with their product positioning. In the cloud, it's slightly different. They have acquired Sage Intacct. So Sage Intacct is with them now. Sage Intacct is sort of their go-to product for the mid-market, Sage Intacct is only positioned for the service-centric industries, but they have been trying to get into the manufacturing market as well. They are trying that, but they don't have as many installs at this point of time for their Sage Intacct flavor of manufacturing. In general, the Sage Intacct product is extremely limited. They have very deep accounting capabilities, but then they like to position themselves as more of the best of suite product. But that best of suite strategy can work only in certain industries. For example, let's say if you're going to go for the construction, and that's where Sage Intacct is really strong. Sage Intacct may not have as many operational capabilities as part of their suite, but then most construction companies are going to utilize another operation platform. Sometimes that could be debatable whether that's an ERP or not, but that's about Sage Intacct. They have another product called Sage X3. Now, overall, Sage X3 does not have as much momentum that is targeted for the process manufacturing, the upper mid-market, lower enterprise-centric companies. It is going to be really deep in accounting. That's where Sage is really strong. But the other capabilities might not be as strong as some of the other products or the vendors that we have on this list. So overarchingly, their positioning in 2024, they have done some of the acquisitions in upgrading their mobile capabilities, and which was the Force Manager, which is the mobile CRM and field sales management software. And then they have done one more acquisition, which is the visualization software. For the most part, if you look at the overarching theme of Sage vendor, in the past, they have acquired a lot of capabilities from the accounting perspective. That's where the CPA firms, that is their target channel, they get excited about these capabilities. So that's why they are acquiring those capabilities. So that's number 8. Number 7 on our list is QAD. And QAD has just one product, but that is going to be much deeper suite. And sometimes QAD sort of sits at the intersection of your supply chain suite as well as your ERP suite. You have many different supply chain suites in the market. For example, Blue Yonders of the world, Manhattans of the world. And then you have a lot of different ERP suite that are going to be comparable to QAD, which is going to be your Dalmia Works. Infor has a similar suite. But for the most part, QAD takes very different approach for the ERP. And in the industries that they are targeting, sometimes these capabilities are going to matter. And that's why they are very specific to the industries that they target, because they are going to bundle a lot more capabilities from your CAD PLM perspective. And that's where the industry specific capabilities are going to be far more relevant in those industries. So QAD in general is a very unique product that would fall under that prescriptive category where they are providing a lot more out of the box. So if you are utilizing everything from QAD, that could be a great product. Generally, with prescriptive categories, the cons that you are going to notice is the ecosystem is not going to be as developed. The partner channel may not be as developed, but depending upon what your priorities are, each of these vendors could be a great fit. Overall, QAD right now has very legacy install base. They have been working on their newer version O3, which is not going to have as many installs. They are working on that, and they are going to be heavily commercializing that. So one thing to be excited about QAD is that they are going to have the real cloud native version with QAD, and with some of the legacy vendors. For example, let's say if you look at Dalmia Works, we don't have the same excitement. They have not re-architected their legacy code base. So at least with QAD, you have that. And that's why we are excited about QAD. And that's number 7. Number 6 on our list is IFS. In IFS, if you look at their sweet spot, they are going to target a lot of upper mid-market, lower enterprise-centric companies, although they are going to sell in smaller companies as well. When you look at the lower mid-market, sometimes in a small as well, but overall, the way the product is architected, designed, it's designed for slightly bigger companies. They are going to have enterprise-grade capabilities in their EAM product, in their field service product. And sometimes that could be very heavy for the smaller companies. So that's what you need to keep in mind. If you are going to be in that upper mid-market segment, lower enterprise segment, you are going to get a lot more capabilities from the EAM perspective, from the field service perspective. And in those industries, these capabilities are far more relevant. It was primarily an European product, but number two are commercializing heavily right now in North America. They have been winning a lot of logos. Also, IFS is probably the top six vendors now. They are probably in $1 billion in ARR. But you need to keep in mind, IFS also has their own professional services revenue counted towards that, $1 billion. So it's not pure play product revenue. Also to keep in mind that their install base is also best of breed. They are also installed with other bigger installations. For example, let's say SAP Oracle. On top of that, sometimes customers de-utilize their EAM product or the field service product standalone. That might not be the complete ERP installation. So sometimes it's hard to attribute the revenue where the revenue is coming from. But IFS is definitely a very substantial vendor, and especially for their industries, they are very strong. Some of the recent updates that we have from the IFS perspective, the acquisitions that they have done in 2024, they have acquired a company called Copperleaf, which is going to be investment and asset management for oil and gas, energy, as well as water industries. And those are the industries that are target industries for IFS. And that's why their acquisition strategy is aligned with that as well. Number four, one more, a platform called Empower MX, which is going to be maintenance management for aviation. And again, this is the target industry for IFS. IFS is probably going to have very dominant position in these industries. So if you are looking for a solution, you definitely must consider IFS for those industries. So that's number 6. Number 5 on our list is Apicor. And Apicor has made to that 1 billion ARR club recently as well. You need to keep one thing in mind with Apicor as well. Apicor does not have very strong channel at this point of time. They also have their professional services revenue accounted towards that $1 billion figure. So sometimes it might be harder to find out, how much of that is professional services or how much of that is going to be the revenue coming from their software offering. And obviously that is not the public companies. Sometimes it's hard to trust the data as well, but they are definitely in that $1 billion ARR club. They have had some changes from the private equity perspective as well. And the new private equity is making changes for them to win the larger logos. In general, that's going to be the effort for most private equity companies when they are going to advance, in the life cycle of the company. So that is the phase that Apicor is going through right now. Their strategy is very similar to Infor and ECI. If you look at the market, Apicor is still acquiring many products, many offerings, the way Infor was acquiring, but now Infor does not acquire as much. They have become more of the product developer as opposed to the acquirer. ECI is still acquiring a lot of companies. And in general, if you look at the Apicor acquisition strategy, they have acquired a lot of products in their major buckets, and their major buckets were always the manufacturing, retail, distribution. They have some presence in healthcare as well, but that is limited in general. So these 3 buckets, and that's where they are making a lot of acquisition from the commerce capabilities perspective. If you look at their 2024 acquisition, they have acquired a capability called Smart Software, which is going to be more for demand forecasting. Some of their competitors, for example, if you look at SAP, Oracle, Infor, Microsoft does not have as much as SNOP offering baked as part of their product, but the other vendors had. So that's why Apicor acquired that capabilities as well. Then they have one more acquisition, which is Hiklo, which is the B2B storefront platform. And some of these technologies might be relevant only for certain industries. In this case, that is B2B. For the most part, the ERP products are going to be positioned only for the B2B industries. So that is one acquisition that they have done. Then they have also acquired a company called Selenium Group, as well as Visual SKUs. And they have the PIM capability, DEM capability. So now the whole e-commerce capabilities are going to be merged with Apicor as well. For some companies, that might be okay, but the other companies are probably going to keep the PIM DEM layer separate. In general, if you're looking for very integrated suite, in that case, Epicor may be a great fit. And sometimes these acquisitions might be harder to sort of assess which product is going to be integrated with those. But for the most part, when you look at the distribution retail product, that's probably going to go for their Profit 21 offering. If you have any sort of manufacturing centric offering, then they are probably going to go with their Kinetic offering. Now they have acquired another number 4 called Acadia Performance platform. That is sort of the employee performance management platform. Again, the employee performance management platform is going to be very similar to your the Red Zone Poca centric offering, from the IFS perspective. And every single vendor is making some sort of acquisition in that space as well. And Epicor is doing the same. So that's very interesting overall. So Epicor is a very interesting vendor, and that's why they are at number 5 on our list. Number 4 on our list is Infor, and Infor has very similar strategy as your Epicor app chain. Infor is going to have much higher market share, especially with the larger logos. They have a lot of presence in the upper mid market. Their products is designed for those market segments, and that's why they have a lot more market share in general. They have a lot of different products in their portfolio, and they each are positioned for the specific market segment, just because they are trying to bundle the suite, and they are providing these prescriptive suites for each of those specific market. If you're buying the entire suite, then you are going to be successful. If you're looking for ecosystem, tearing apart these pieces, buying several different software, sometimes that could be challenging with vendors such as Infor, even though they are going to argue that they have Infor OS, which is going to be your technology platform, and Infor OS can be utilized to be able to integrate, but then you are looking for consulting dollars, the custom development, custom integration that you need to do. Their ecosystem is not going to be as developed. From the Infor's perspective, they have been trying to become more of the technology vendor now. Their market positioning, the commentary that we are getting from Infor is very technology centric, that they are trying to do that. And if you look at their acquisition strategy, it's aligned with that as well. For example, let's say they have acquired a capability called Albanero, and that is the blockchain development services. And blockchain, if you look at the adoption of the technology at this point of time across different vendor types, the only place where we might be able to see the use case of that is probably going to be in supply chain traceability. They have the supply chain visibility platform in the form of Nexus. So we don't know if they are utilizing for that, but that seems to be a very technical capability that they have acquired. The other acquisition that we saw is with Acumen, which is the pricing and revenue management for CPG as well as FMCG. And for the most part, that capability is going to be relevant for their entry portfolio. And again, it's a very interesting offering. They don't do as many acquisitions anymore, but that does not seem to be the major development in Infor's portfolio. In general, Infor has been very silent in terms of their roadmap, where they are heading from their product strategy perspective, but they still have the leading sort of market share, at least in the prescriptive category, and that's why they are at number 4. Number 3 on our list is Microsoft. Microsoft has had many different products in their portfolio, but the leading product that we have is your finance and operations, and they have changed the name of that as well. Now, they have very similar strategy as any of the best of breed vendors. For example, let's say if you look at any of the CRM vendors, or if you look at any of the microservices sort of vendors, they are trying to position themselves as more of any of the ERP system that you are going to have. They are more of the apps. For example, let's say if you look at the strategy of Odoo or Zoho, those vendors are trying to claim that, ERP is all about buying the apps, but ERP is very different. Overarchingly speaking, the ERP category is driven by the tightness of the data model, and that is still very relevant. So sometimes the positioning of Microsoft may be slightly confusing. in terms of where they are heading at this point of time. But the FNO product that they have a different name for that. So you might want to research on that. But the FNO product is the leading product. The Business Central is the mid-market product that they have. That is also leading. The GP product, they are not doing as much development. The roadmap is not clear, but the support is going to be available for next few years. So if you are on GP at this point of time, you might need to think about, what you are going to do and whether you are going to migrate to one of the Microsoft product or any other vendors. But overarchingly, Microsoft has very, very vanilla platform strategy. So you are not going to find as many last mile capabilities with the product, but their ecosystem is going to be far more developed. You are going to find a lot more consulting companies. They have developed their IP on top of Microsoft. Sometimes this strategy might work with companies. For example, let's say if you are going to be part of the holding company structure, or you are a private equity company and have many different business models that you need to support, you need to quickly swap out some of the capabilities from one company to the next company. Sometimes that agility might be friendly with the vanilla product, but then you have the risk of these add-ons that are going to be with the vanilla software providers, such as your Microsoft. The only acquisition Microsoft has done in 2024 was Inflection. And obviously, Microsoft is a very large company. ERP is just very small offering for them. ERP is not their core offering. So the acquisitions that they are going to do are not going to be as relevant with the ERP portfolio. In general, for the most part, if you look at the overarching strategy of Microsoft, the number one threat Microsoft has is probably going to be from Google in terms of their retaining the core market share. They also compete with companies such as Apple, which is going to be slightly more in the consumerized space. And then right now, with respect to AI, OpenAI, they have a real challenge with respect to their Azure portfolio as well. So that is going to be their primary driver in terms of how their corporate strategy, product strategy is going to be. ERP is not as big footprint in their portfolio, but they are definitely committed to the market. They are doing substantial development on these platforms, and they are very heavily adopted. So that's why Microsoft is a very heavy contender among ERP vendors, and that's why it is at number 3. In general, 2 on our list is Oracle. And Oracle has 2 different products, at least in the cloud. That is going to be Oracle Cloud ERP as well as NetSuite. NetSuite is the SMB product, and the Oracle Cloud ERP is slightly more enterprise, upper mid-market centric product. For the most part, their installations are going to be in that upper and lower enterprise spaces. You might be able to see the Oracle Cloud ERP with some of the smaller companies as well, but that is probably going to be a stretch. The way the product is designed, it is designed for enterprise workloads. That's where it is going to scale. That's where it is going to perform really well. The kind of layers that you are going to have from the enterprise perspective, they might not be as relevant for the mid-market. The amount of effort that you need to put in disabling those layers, it might feel very bloated, overall from the product perspective. NetSuite is the mid-market product, even though NetSuite is installed in very smaller companies as well. But for the most part, NetSuite has very global capabilities. So that's why it is also successful in a lower mid-market segment. But NetSuite is a very vanilla product. So it does require a lot of add-ons in general. So if you are taking slightly more best-of-breed strategy, where you need to utilize several different platforms from your MarTech perspective, from your supply chain perspective, then NetSuite could be a great product from the SMB portfolio perspective. Overall, Oracle is also worried about AI as well as the database market. That is their primary market overall. And one of the acquisitions that they have done was Cerner. So the primary target industry was healthcare. That's where they are investing their energy, etc. So ERP is not getting as much attention. The only acquisitions that they have done in 2024 was in their NetSuite portfolio, which is the FSM NetSuite. So now NetSuite is going to be in the field service space as well. So now if you compare 2 rivals, which is your NetSuite and Acumatica, they both have developed one of the capabilities that are sort of bringing them closer. Acumatica had a lot more capabilities from the field service perspective. NetSuite did not have. So now NetSuite has acquired that capability. Acumatica has developed the professional services version. So these two products are sort of coming closer in their offerings, but those are distinctly different products designed for very different purpose, depending upon what you are trying to do. But overall, Oracle still has substantial market share in the ERP space, and that's why they are at number 2 on our list. One on our list is SAP. And primary market share and the primary offering for SAP is ERP. They are really committed. They have their leading flagship product, which is your SAP S/4HANA. And then they also have their mid-market products, which is going to be SAP Business by Design and SAP Business One. In the mid-market, SAP does not have as much momentum overall, even though they are going to have very large install base in general compared to your Microsoft GP. Microsoft GP had very similar number of installations. SAP Business One is going to have very similar number of installations as well. But if you look at their core offering, especially in the cloud, they just don't have as deep operational capabilities as part of their SAP Business One cloud product. SAP Business by Design has always struggled with their penetration. It never had as many logos. It was never a successful product. They are still selling and supporting SAP Business by Design. So overall, from the SAP perspective, the mid-market strategy is not as strong. They have announced that they have come up with a truncated version of SAP S/4HANA, which is positioned for the mid-market, but then it is going to be the same enterprise product, maybe have a little truncated code base. So that's a newer announcement. We don't know at this point of time how successful this product is going to be. We don't have as many customers coming to us and telling us whether they are successful with that or not. So we just don't have enough data, but they definitely have that offering as well. And sometimes that is probably going to overlap with the other product that they have in their portfolio, which is going to be your by design and business one. So where each of these categories are going to be positioned, that is questionable at this point of time. We don't know whether SAP is going to go only with one product and then going to decommission these smaller products. Sometimes SAP has completely different organizations supporting internally inside SAP for these products. So sometimes they also have the competing priorities among those products. We always hear mixed stories about where each of the product is and what is the corporate strategy around all of these products, how they are segmented. And sometimes they are going to have the corporate strategy, but the field is going to tell very different stories. Well, so overarchingly speaking, SAP has very mixed story always with the mid-market. Their enterprise story is very clear. They are doing really well. They have been growing a lot in their SAP S/4HANA install base. In fact, they are probably one of the leading vendors, I would say, in 2024 overall with the success of their cloud product. Initially, Microsoft and Oracle, they were winning a lot more over SAP, but SAP is growing now faster. After the change in the CEO, they have done some of the acquisition, which is aligned with the core ERP strategy, the core problems that customers had in the market from the ERP perspective. For example, let's say if you look at the Linux, Signavio, as well as WalkMe. So these are some of the notable acquisitions that they have done overall from the core ERP offering perspective. So we know that SAP is very committed to the ERP market, and the way they are taking this strategy, they are the only vendor right now, even though all of the major vendors, when you look at Oracle, Microsoft, Infor, they all have taken slightly more enterprise architecture-centric strategy, but what they have not done is building the momentum around enterprise architecture, building community around enterprise architecture, acquiring those capabilities that are going to support the overarching enterprise architecture play. And that's where SAP is ahead in that game. And that's why SAP is probably going to have a lot more success with their enterprise workloads, because these capabilities are absolutely essential for these workloads. And that's why we are super excited about SAP, and they are number one on our list for the ERP vendors. Now, we are going to provide brief on some of the vendors. They are not part of our top 10 list. Just because a vendor is not going to be in the top 10 list, that does not mean that these vendors are not good or you should not be considering them. They each are positioned for very specific market. They have very unique offering. So you need to pay attention to what their core target market is, where their core positioning is. Top 10 does not mean that you should be looking at only those vendors. So now number 11 on our list is Unit 4. And Unit 4 has very prescriptive strategy, just like your Infor Epicor, but Unit 4 is a product for public sector, not for profit centric verticals. Their product, the way it is designed, and they just have one product. They have a mid market product as well. They have launched. We don't have enough data to be able to comment how successful their mid market strategy is, but Unit 4 was installed in very enterprise workloads. You will be hear from a lot of large companies that is going to be your upper mid market, lower enterprise, sometimes upper enterprise as well, depending upon the scope of the ERP in those workloads. Unit 4 is installed. So, in comparison, I would say IFS Unit 4, they probably are installed in very similar market segments in terms of the size. So Unit 4 is the vendor that you should be considering if you are going to be in public sector as well as the not-for-profit space. In 2024, they have not acquired any sort of capabilities, so there is not much momentum in their portfolio. They have been doing some development from their cloud capability perspective that we know, but as such, there is not as much momentum compared to the other ERP vendors. So that's number 11. Now, number 12 on our list is Odoo. And Odoo has a very large ecosystem. It's very well adopted, very good product. For the most part, Odoo's core positioning is going to be any companies that are outgrowing QuickBooks. The data model, the process model is designed for that segment, for the easier implementation, for companies that might not have as much appetite for ERP-centric processes. That's where Odoo is going to feel a little bit better. In general, Odoo's valuation has been roughly $5 billion in the recent valuation. They have raised a lot of money, primarily because of their ecosystem and the momentum that they have as part of their ecosystem. But sometimes when you look at Odoo's core positioning, we have seen challenges with Odoo just because the community that Odoo has, sometimes they are sort of overcommitting, they are overselling in the upper mid-market, lower enterprise spaces where if you are going to need all of those capabilities and you are going to develop on top of Odoo, that does fire back because some of these capabilities could be extremely mature. They require a superior IT maturity that the development teams are not going to have. They are not going to have as much business expertise either. So that's why we see a lot more failures in general with Odoo, but Odoo is an excellent product for that, the startup as well as sometimes the smaller segment. That's where their core positioning is going to be. Odoo also takes very interesting approach to their product, which is very similar to Zoho, the way Zoho product is positioned in the market, but Zoho is not necessarily ERP. And the reason for that is because their data model is not going to be connected across their apps. If you look at just the app portfolio, both of these products are going to appear very similar, but Odoo is a real ERP product. Zoho is not a real ERP product. But Odoo is going to have very similar capabilities as Zoho for the best of breed segment as well. And that's why they are really hot. We don't know at this point of time, we don't have enough details about what they are going to do with the recent funding that they have done. Obviously, they have received very high valuation. So their goal is going to be to build these enterprise capabilities or increase their community. But for the most part, they are going to be investing in their AI capabilities. And some of the recent trends that we are seeing, especially with the newer platforms, for example, let's say, if you look at the newer category of software, Monday.com, Airtable, Notion, ClickUp, all of these newer categories of the products are driving a very different experience. And that's where Odoo is really strong as well. So we are probably going to see a lot more develop in those areas, but that is a very consumerized market segment, consumerized strategy. It is not the enterprise strategy. So we will see in the future where Odoo is going to be investing their money, effort. But for the most part, their product is really designed for that startup segment. So that's number 12. Number 13 on our list is Plex. And Plex was always a product that took the MES first strategy, which is very interesting for some of the manufacturers. They are owned by Rockwell Automation. So sometimes that could get into this whole hardware play. And sometimes that hardware integration is far more common with the MES suite. that could be a topic in itself, that could be a list in itself. There are many different vendors that we have in the MES segment. Generally, ERP is going to take slightly more corporate perspective. The MES is going to take slightly more client perspective. But Plex is sort of in between. They are MES first vendor, and then they have some of the ERP capabilities as well. Their ERP capabilities are not as strong compared to the other vendors. Now, depending upon the architecture that you might be seeking and whether you are going to be really strong in that MES suite, where you are going to host your quality processes, your predictive maintenance processes inside your MES. Some industries do that, but other industries care for that corporate alignment as well of these processes. So then they are going to host in the ERP. So now, depending upon the architecture, depending upon the business model that you have, Plex could be a great fit. As such, from their development perspective, we have not seen much happening in the Plex portfolio. We have seen similar acquisitions in the past, where OEMs acquire a software vendor, but then they figure out that the software is not their core business. So we have seen the spin-off of these vendors as well. Sometimes they don't get as much attention with the vendors such as your company, such as your Rockwell, just because the hardware control systems, that is going to be their primary target market. And if they are not able to increase their deal size based on the ERP, their assumption was that they will be able to increase their deal size. That's why they have acquired these companies. But that does not go very well in general. Traditionally, if you look at the traditional similar acquisitions in the past, they did not go very well. So we don't know at this point of time where Plex is going to be in the future. But right now, Plex is at number 13. Number 14 on our list is Aptean. And Aptean has taken a very similar strategy as your Infor, Epicor. Infor does not acquire as many. ECI is probably going to be another company. Constellation Software is probably going to be another company. They have very vertical software. They don't have as many ERP systems as part of their portfolio, but these are very similar companies, similar strategy that they are taking. Generally, they acquire these software systems from family-based businesses. Their goal is going to be to change the marketing, to change the positioning, but as such, there is not as much R&D happening from the product perspective. Their support model might change, and that's the concern that we hear from Aptean perspective as well. They have too many products. Sometimes the core developers who develop these products, they have already left Aptean, and now Aptean is sort of maintaining that. So you are probably going to find challenges in getting support for each of these specific products, and each specific product could have very different strategy overall. So you need to pay attention to which product you are buying from Aptean. And sometimes the strategy that Aptean has taken, they have positioned their products very similar to your Acumatica, but Acumatica is one product, different region. In the case of Aptean, these are completely different products, and they are branding, marketing themselves as more of the addition. Infor has done very similar things as well, but at least they are positioning themselves as product. They are not positioning themselves as addition. So that could be slightly misleading, that you might need to pay attention to. Generally, they acquire at least 20, 30 different companies. In 2024, they have not acquired as many. For the most part, they were acquiring market share in the Eastern Europe. For the most part, that market was very growing. So in 2024, they have done Indigo WMS, and they already had a WMS product as part of their portfolio, but now they are acquiring these geo-specific WMS capabilities, as well as some of the industry-specific WMS capabilities. So sometimes it's very hard to assess where that WMS product is going to go overall from the alignment perspective, but that is the acquisition that they have done. Then they have also acquired a company called SSG Insight. That is the EAM's CMMS capability. And generally, these products are going to be small in their size. They are designed for the startup sort of segment. So what Aptean is going to do, they are going to integrate them, bundle them as part of one of their ERP suite, and they are going to sell them as the integrated suite. Then they have also acquired a company called Principal Logistics, and they were in the WMS and supply chain visibility. This, that must be to fill the hole with their supply chain visibility portfolio, as well as they have the Momentus, which is the fashion ERP. They already had footprint in the fashion space. So we don't know at this point of time what is going to happen to Momentus, whether they are going to carry two different products as part of the same portfolio, or they are going to decommission this and then sell the other fashion ERP product that they have. So these are the developments of Aptean, and they are at number 14 on our list. Then number 15 on our list is Cispro. And Cispro just had one product. They were traditionally the developer of the ERP system. They are from South Africa. That's where they had majority of their installations, but they also had major penetration in the North American market as well. Overall, their strategy, they were very well penetrated in the channel space. They had partner channel. That's the reason why they were really strong in the smaller segment. For the most part, the way the product is positioned from the Cisco perspective, that is going to be the smaller as well as the startup segment. That's where they have the majority of the logos. Sometimes you're going to see very large companies utilizing Cisco as well, but the scope of that product is going to be limited in general, and they are not going to have as many logos in the mid-market segment for the most part. One of the unique aspects of Cispro is they can do both discrete and process as part of their product model. So that makes it very unique for certain industries that are going to have flavors of both discrete and process manufacturing industries, as well as distribution. Sometimes the other products that we have on with other vendors, such as your Infor, Epicor, they might not be able to do, let's say, process. They might say that they have process capabilities, but they were not developed as part of the core product. They are not going to be as successful in those spaces. So that is the unique advantage that we have from the Cisco perspective. They have been doing a lot of work from their cloud capabilities perspective, and now they are promoting their cloud product heavily. We don't have a sense of how many logos they have with their cloud product versus their on-prem product. But for the most part, that is the vendor to be excited about in 2025, and they are at number 15 on our list. Number 16 on our list is ECI Software Solutions. If ECI is trying to acquire companies in that startup market segment, and they are trying to create very similar strategy as Odoo, but through acquisition as opposed to developing these capabilities internally. So ECI is going to have a very similar suite capabilities as your Infor, Epicor, but for a lower market segment. ECI traditionally has had much heavier focus on the commerce segment. If you look at their process model, the product model, the layers are very lean in general. They are designed for companies that are going to be in that QuickBooks segment, and they are looking for the entire suite as opposed to doing just accounting. So if you're looking for those deep operational integrated capabilities, that's why ECI is going to be the right fit in that startup segment, which is going to be your $10 million and below. They might have some logos in the smaller space as well, but that's very rare. In general, the major penetration is in that startup segment, which is going to be anywhere from $5 to $10 million revenue segment. The acquisitions, if you look at ECI, where they have acquired MyTech Industries for real estate. They are doing a lot more work in the real estate space. In general, real estate is a very different beast. There are many different vendors that might be present in real estate, which are very unique. They don't target any other industries. For example, if you look at ERD, that is a very strong product in the real estate space. The other vendors that you're going to find in real estate priority that might not be part of this list, they have a lot more installations in Israel, but they do a lot more work in the real estate as well. Focus ERP is one ERP vendor from Middle East as well, and they have a lot more installations in the real estate. Sage Intacct is installed there as well. So those are some of the vendors that are in the real estate, but now ECI is doing that as well. ECI has also acquired a solution called ProfitKey, and that was the manufacturing solution designed by the same founders that designed Visual. So Visual has gone to Infor. ProfitKey is with ECI. So that's a very interesting mix there as well. ProfitKey, was a very strong manufacturing solution for the job shop, and that is generally the target segment for ECI. There are many different products in their portfolio targeting that particular market segment. We don't know at this point of time what they are going to do with ProfitKey. They have a lot of products in their portfolio. Matter of fact, the other solution that they have acquired is Avid Ratings, which is for building ratings, and building ratings is going to be a very common problem in the construction real estate space. So again, ECI is making a lot more investment in the construction and real estate based on their acquisition strategy. So that's number 16. In fact, number 17 on our list is Sardinia or Financial Force. And for the most part, Certinia Financial Force was part of the Salesforce ecosystem. There are two ERP vendors that are present in the Salesforce ecosystem. Certinia Financial Force competed with likes of Workday, Unit 4. They had PSA capabilities for the consulting market. As such, we have not seen much momentum with the Certinia Financial Force. They have done rebranding, but that is the only thing that they have done so far. We have not seen any sort of acquisition. Matter of fact, that's Certinia, and that's number 17. Fact number 18 on our list is Workday. And some people might argue that Workday is probably not an ERP. It was primarily an HCM, HRIS software. They are much thicker there. Their corporate strategies aligned to retaining that HCM, HRIS portfolio. But they have also developed the financial capabilities. They have the FP&A suite as well as part of their portfolio. FP&A capabilities are going to be part of your SAP Oracle. They all have that bundled as part of their portfolio. Now, matter of fact, for some of the industries, for example, let's say if you look at retail, you look at construction, you look at any of the service-centric industries, for them, the Workday HCM was very heavily penetrated. And for those industries, the financials might be okay just because these industries never used the core operational capabilities. They didn't need the inventory layers. The procurement is very different. Workday has the procurement offerings as well. So now for the service-centric industries, Workday may be a decent ERP system that you should be including as part of your assessment. So some of the things that they have done in Workday portfolio, they have acquired a company called HiredScore, which is for applicant screening. So if you look at their acquisition strategy, that is still very much aligned to retaining their ACM portfolio. Also, Workday has been feeling a lot of pressure from the newer vendors. For example, ServiceNow, they have been penetrating the ACM space a lot. Dayforce has become a lot bigger. So they are taking some of the market share from Workday as well. So that's the challenge that Workday is facing at this point of time. They are trying to develop their enterprise capabilities and trying to retain their market share in the HCM, HRIS space. And that's why we are seeing the acquisitions in that space. They have also announced a recent collaboration with Salesforce. So now from the AI perspective, they are going to have much deeper capabilities. And one of the acquisitions that they have done is Edisart, which is the AI-based document management system. So that's with Workday, and that is number 18. Now, number 19 on our list is Rootstock. And Rootstock was a very small vendor. Traditionally, they did not have as many installations, but they have been making substantial momentum, in their portfolio. They have made the executive changes. Now, the executives that we have with Rootstock, they are from the ERP industry. Initially, they were more part of the Salesforce ecosystem. They did not understand the ERP industry as much, but now the new executive team is coming from the other ERP vendors. We have executives from Infor, we have executives from Epicor, etc. So Rootstock is making some really exciting changes in their portfolio. For the most part, Rootstock has also made a lot of changes in winning a lot of logos and getting attention of large Big Four consulting firms, etc. They are building practices around Rootstock, and that's a good sign that the product has clear direction. They are getting a lot of traction in the market. So, and they have very specific capabilities for certain industries where they do really well. A lot of their logos are going to be in the medical device space. And for the most part, their logos are going to be aligned with the Salesforce capabilities as well. Wherever Salesforce is going to be strong, probably Rootstock is going to be strong as well. So Salesforce, in general, they target slightly more service-centric verticals. They don't have as much penetration in the product-centric verticals. But in certain cases, for example, let's say if you look at medical device, pharma, some of the engineer-to-order-centric spaces, that's where your Rootstock is going to be really strong fit. And that's where they are winning a lot. So that is going to be a vendor that you should be including if you are going to be in those spaces. So that's number 19. Number 20 on our list is ERP Next. ERP Next has very similar positioning as Odoo. They are the open source offering, just like Odoo. They just don't have as much traction as Odoo, much smaller footprint overall from the community perspective, overall from their penetration perspective. They have not done any sort of acquisitions in 2024, but they are definitely a prominent vendor just because of their penetration, and that's number 20. Number 21 on our list is Blackbaud. And Blackboard had much deeper penetration in the not-for-profit space. They had a lot of different operational capabilities aligned to the not-for-profit segment, along with the ERP accounting software. But Blackboard has had challenges in promoting those capabilities in the cloud-native fashion. So that is the challenge that Blackboard has. Not-for-profit has many different CRM systems as well as your ERP systems that are targeted for not-for-profit. So sometimes Blackboard faces competition with those vendors a lot more than the traditional ERP vendors, but Blackboard still has very strong market share in the not-for-profit space. As such, they have not acquired any companies in 2024. So not as much momentum as some of the other ERP vendors on this list. So that's number 21. Number 22 on our list is the newer vendor, which is Advantive. And Advantive has been created, I believe, in 2022, somewhere around 2022. And they have taken a very similar strategy as Constellation Software, which is probably the hottest enterprise software vendor, on Wall Street. The investors are really excited about that because the kind of money that they are able to make, no one else is able to make that kind of money. So that strategy still works. Infor started with that strategy. This is the whole consolidation strategy, especially in the recessionary market, such as your 2024, this strategy works really well. So, and that's how Advantive was created, even though there's nothing fundamentally new about the strategy, but it is very similar to your Infor, Epicor, ECI, as well as the Constellation software. And they have been very successful in general. They have acquired a lot of different systems. Their strategy is slightly different from the acquisition perspective. What they are trying to do is they are trying to go after some of the best of breed, the SPS solution, the quality solution, very operational solution from the manufacturing perspective, but they also have very complex distribution-centric offerings as well. Overall, from the size perspective, they are trying to target the market share that is going to be slightly bigger than ECI, but they are probably going to be in ECI's market. They are definitely in the Epicor's market as well. Traditionally, Epicor was very good in these market segments just because Epicor had far deeper inventory capabilities. The way their product model was designed, Epicor did really well in the fastener market segment, etc. Advantive does really well in the genital wheel segment. There are many different market segments that Advantive is trying to position. So that is another vendor that you need to be excited about. They have done some acquisitions aligned to their market strategy. So overall, from their corporate strategy perspective, they are combining ERP, MES, SPS, e-com. SPS is the only new layer that we have, I guess, with Advantive. The e-commerce is very similar to ECI. ECI was doing that. Epicor is doing that as well. So they have acquired a B2B e-commerce vendor. And in general, this particular e-commerce vendor was very deep into the operational capabilities inside their e-commerce platform. And this is the solution from Israel, which is your Papari. Compared to other B2B e-commerce vendors, they were very deep into their operational capabilities. So they have acquired that, and that is probably going to be integrated as part of their offering as well. And they have also acquired one more product called Corn Sense, that is the construction ERP. So in the construction space, we already know that ECI is moving in that space. They are making a lot of investment in the real estate space, and then Advantive is making that investment as well. So that's number 22. So that's it for the ERP vendors. If you enjoyed this video, we are going to publish a detailed article that is going to be included with this video as well. So check that out. We publish these videos on a weekly basis. So if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you might want to do that if you don't want to miss these videos. And don't forget to hit the bell button. Also, we publish our digital transformation report yearly, compiling all of these insights where you are not only going to find the vendors, but also different systems as well as what you need to know to be successful with their enterprise transformation initiative. So we are going to have a QR code that is going to be displayed on this video throughout the video. So you might want to scan and download and check that out. This podcast is also available in the audio form on major podcasting platform. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.